folks. These two pigs in back here are my two new boars. I did a boar trade with some folks in Prince George, which is a couple hours from here. And they had ossabaws. So, this one in front is the single remaining hooligan. There's a bit of forced perspective here. She's not actually that big compared to them. But they are quite small. So ossabaws are a very rare breed. They're not very many of them in the world. North America is the only place that they are found. They were a breed of pig. Well, they weren't a breed. They were some pigs that went wild on an island near Georgia. And they lived there for a couple hundred years. And any population on an island will tend to shrink. There was actually an island in Russia several thousand years ago that had miniature mammoths on it. So you get miniature animals. And that's why ossabaws are so small, is because that population lived on an island for a while. So there aren't very many of them. And when there aren't very many of an animal, you need to keep track of the genetics pretty tightly, because if you do too much inbreeding, they will not fare well. They won't have healthy offspring, and then you can lose the line. So my ossabaws, of which this little hooligan is one, and you've met all the other ones the other day, are from a couple lines, more or less, that have been in the Lower Mainland for several generations. And these two boars here, these two white ones, which are very hungry as you see, are from a line that was, there was an import done. Hey, miss. Hey, you're getting pushy. There was an import done in Ontario a number of years ago. A number of animals were brought in from the States. And so they're from that line. And so what this means is that I have some very different genetics for the ossabaws here, and I can probably maintain a herd for, another, I don't know, 10 generations? 10 years? Hey, mister, don't go out. You're in here for a while. Which is excellent news for me. And the people who took my boars are going to be able to maintain their genetics for quite a while, which is excellent news for them and excellent news for ossabaws in general. This line, this sort of somewhat inbred group that they have is quite small. You can see, like, they have this curly fur, which is so beautiful. They're more narrow and more delicate looking. I would say they're probably 100 pounds less than mine, full grown. So that's really neat, is to see those differences and to introduce some diversity. Diversity is almost always a good thing. It means that you have less predictable results per individual. Like, you're not always sure exactly how much feed an individual will eat or how fast it will grow. But you have more resilience if something weird and surprising happens. Like, maybe it gets cold, or maybe there's a disease that comes through, or even just, in personal tastes, what they like to eat out in the pasture, things like that. Hey, mister. How are you doing? So they arrived today. I'm just sitting here getting to know them. They have much longer fur, but less shiny than mine do. You can see she's very shiny. I don't know if you can see that, actually. Yes. It's going to take a lot of work to integrate them with the herd, because they're fairly... Thanks, guys. They're fairly they're boars that will be old enough to breed right now, so they'll be a threat to my boar. And he would probably be interested in just killing them if I just put them all together. I just put them in a field together. So there will have to be a lot of work with shared fence lines and carefully integrating them in groups that don't have a set pecking order. So I might take my boar and put him in a field with them that none of them have ever been into, so none of them is territorial about it, and there are no females there for him to feel territorial about, and that will be an easier way for them to meet each other. They had no problem meeting her, though, this little hooligan. Oh, I know what I was saying. I was telling you about ossabaws and how they evolved on this island to be small. And then fairly recently, the United States decided that they wanted to restore the island to the ecology that it had before the pigs were put on it. And pigs very much change in ecology. They eat all the eggs of the nesting birds, and they dig up all of the tasty roots, and they just change everything that's living on there. So the United States started shooting all of the ossabaw pigs, but because they were this unique race, or unique breed, some people tried to rescue them, and so a number of pigs individuals were brought off the island and are being kept as livestock, and the ones on the island are not accessible. They can't be exported. They're just being shot until they're all gone on that island. So they're no longer, they don't exist in the wild anymore, essentially. I mean, there are still some there, but they're trying to get rid of them. Look at that curly fur. And in a lot of places in the States, they're thought to be, well, they're an invasive species if they get loose. Not so much up here, where they wouldn't survive the winter without help. So there are a lot of places they're not allowed to be kept in the States, or where it's quite difficult to keep them. Nice little pigs. You can see when they're eating, they'll kind of sweep their nose across their food before they put it in their mouth, because their nose is very, very sensitive, much more sensitive than yours or mine. So then they kind of know what they're eating. And they'll do that in mud too. So they'll sweep their nose across the mud, and then they'll either feel or smell something tasty and then eat that thing out of the mud. That's how they dig up roots and things like that. Oh, those are the new boars. When they're a little more comfortable, I'll be looking at which one I want to keep, and then I'll have the other one on offer in case someone else in the area wants to have an ossabaw breeding group, so that I can give them one of these boars and some of my females, like this. It would be pretty great if more people kept them, that's for sure. I think they're a really good homesteading pig, if it's just one or two people. Hey, mister, please don't. Yeah, please don't. Well, let's leave them to their dinner. And I should go and have my dinner too. They're going to need names, these new boys. What is your name going to be? I think you're going to be the keeper. We'll see how they do after eating the food here and getting comfortable, and yeah. Hey, miss. No hooliganing allowed. All right, you take care, little ones.